is our resident roofer. He tells me that he took his very first trip to South Dakota with his son this summer, and they went to see Mount Rushmore. They did the Volks March at Crazy Horse, which is really cool in case anybody's never seen it, and which was a 10K. So he had a very nice hike while he was there. His speech this morning will be from 5 to 7 minutes, and the title is Rights and Responsibilities. Please welcome Peter Hall.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, one of the things that people have, every one of us has heard growing up was, as you get older, you get more rights. But as you get more rights, you also get more responsibilities. You get driver's license, well, you better, you have the right to drive, but now you have the responsibility to respect others and to pay attention to the rules of the road. You gain the right to vote, but it's critical to be informed, to cast a intelligent vote. Have a dog? Well, you have the right to have a dog, but you have responsibility to license the dog with the city, and in some cities you need to have a liability insurance for some breeds of dogs, such as pit bulls. You own or make a gun? Well, you have the right to do that. What's responsibility, though? Well, and I will grant that the NRA has done a good job of hunter safety on that end of things, and people learning how to use firearms safely, but there's been an amazing lack of responsibility in other aspects of the whole gun debate. And we could go Sunday, Las Vegas, a man on the 32nd floor of a hotel shot up a concert venue, leaving 58 people dead and more than 500 injured. And over the years, there have been many attempts to restrict high-capacity magazines and high-powered rifles and semi-automatics, but we have many of our congressmen might as well have a ring in their nose being led by the NRA like a bull to pasture. And so really not much is happening there, even though, like all other rights, the Second Amendment is not absolute. Machine guns already have been prohibited, and that prohibition has been upheld by the Supreme Court. We also are not allowed to, individuals are not allowed to carry hand grenades, bombs, or rocket or RPGs. And so let's look at a different approach. There is another issue that has not been talked about, and it struck me when I started seeing GoFundMe sites and contribute for people that have been injured or killed in this massacre. And that is, who is responsible for for these victims' hospital bills, their lost wages? If someone died, who's responsible for helping the survivors? How about the police and security costs borne by society? There's really been little talk about that. After all, this is not an act of God. It's not a hurricane. It isn't a tornado or an earthquake. It also is not like an auto accident where you have auto insurance. If you're at fault, you have auto insurance that covers you and covers the other person. If you're not at fault, you have the liability insurance to collect on for your injuries and damage. But if someone shoots up a crowd, who do you sue? I mean, it's not your fault, it's not an act of God. Someone should be responsible. And my proposal is that we have some kind of liability standards, much like people that have dangerous breeds of dogs have to carry liability insurance. Maybe the time has come for people to have liability insurance for high-powered guns and ammo, and if so that in case they are used illegally or fall into the wrong hands, there is a fund to help people that are victimized by this. Now, there are two ways to approach this situation. One would be to have a license or registration, much like you have for automobiles or for dogs, and you pay a insurance every year or quarterly. Well, that could work. However, there is a real antipathy towards registering guns, and there's some potential slippery slope issues. The other proposal, other thought would be you would just have that built into the cost of the weapon. If you want to buy a high-powered semi-automatic gun, you also are going to buy a insurance or indemnity policy to cover 20 years, and after all, guns do have serial numbers, and yes, people can file them off, but it is still a way to track where this gun was used for this, in this crime. In some way, and with ammo, the other thing would be to have that built into the cost. There's needs to be some responsibility brought back to this whole debate. And as I've said, you own a car or a dog or or you have a business, you have the right to do that. You need to have the responsibility for insurance. But it's high time that we look at something like this to put some responsibility that goes with gun rights, have some gun responsibilities, and might just be one step to help those that are injured and hurt by this violence. Madam Toastmaster.